All right, so today we're going to be talking a bit about dad bods versus fit bods, right? Who has the advantage? Why is it that women always are saying that they like dad bods? Okay, I've been seeing this more and more lately over these years, especially women saying they like dad bods. So, like, what the hell is going on here? Okay, so the first thing that I want to bring up is the definition of dad bod is different depending on who you ask. Because if you ask a woman what a dad bod actually is, it's going to be different depending on who you ask. Like to us, to me specifically, I would say a dad bod is someone who doesn't really work out, high body fat percentage, definitely not lean, definitely not fit, definitely not in shape, and probably just doesn't work out really at all. But I've heard a lot of women, I've seen a lot of women point out dad bods, and specifically the quote unquote dad bods that they point out are not fucking dad bods. They're guys who are like power lifters or actually people who do lift, but they just have a lot of extra body, or not a lot of extra body fat, but they have extra body fat, which just means like they don't have visible abs, but they still kind of look like they lift. You know what I mean? And so I think the definition, that's the first problem that we have, is the definition is different depending on who you ask. It's like, who's defining what dad bod even is? And so that's the first problem. But for the sake of this video, let's just say it's a guy who pretty much doesn't lift, or if he does, he barely lifts or does any exercise. He's high body fat percentage. He definitely does not have abs. That's what we know for sure, because dad bods is usually compared to somebody who has a six pack. So it's like, would you rather be with the guy who has a six pack or a dad bod? And a lot of women are saying dad bod. So the first thing that I have to say about this is I think a lot of women, it depends on who you ask, in the sense of it depends on what stage they're in. If they're looking for a guy who is more long-term, reliable partner to have kids with, it may actually be true that they would prefer a dad bod. And the reason for that is because with a guy who's fit and in shape, okay, the guy who's fit and who's in shape and who has that six pack, he's going to be a bit more of a threat to her, in the sense of she has to be a little bit more careful and worried about him being with other women and competition anxiety. Because the reality is, when you're in shape and you don't even have to have like you have to be super shredded, but when you're fit and you're in shape, you don't have like a belly or a lot of belly fat, you don't have a lot of body fat, you have a lot of muscle, you are a rarity amongst men. Okay, so like, what makes something rare? What makes something rare is, it's not common, it's scarce. For example, gold. It's rare and it's valuable because it's rare and there's not a lot of it and it's hard to find and all this kind of stuff. Same thing with, any jewelry you can think of, diamonds, whatever. And it's the same thing with your body. The majority of Americans are overweight, right? They're obese. Most guys are obese, they're overweight. And so for you, if you're fit, if you're in shape, you now become a rarity because it's not very common. And so that gives you more options, in the sense of it makes you more attractive than the majority of other people. And so that also means that the woman that you're with, or the woman who would be looking at you, kind of thinks, I gotta have to be careful because he has a little bit more options than the guy who maybe has a dad bod. Because the dad bod, that's not a rarity, right? Like anybody being over a certain body fat percentage and being high body fat, that's just the norm now in society. In American culture, it's the norm for people to be overweight, to have way too much body fat percentage. And so that guy's not a rarity, but you are a rarity if you're in shape. And so I think a big part of this is, what is the woman who's being asked the question looking for? Is she looking for that long-term partner? Because if she is, it makes a difference. Because the guy who has the dad bod is going to be a better long-term partner, in the sense of, she doesn't have to worry so much about him maybe stepping out of the relationship or women coming up to him. So it's less competition. Whereas the other guy, he's probably better more for like a short-term scenario, or like a fling or a hookup or something like that. Because she's going to have to be more worried about him being with other women and being more attractive. So I think that's the first point that people don't really talk about a lot, is what stage is the woman in and what is she really looking for? Is she looking for that guy to settle down, or is she looking more for the guy to do like a hookup scenario? Because typically the guy who's going to be more in shape, lower body fat percentage, lean, abs, fit, is going to have more options in terms of maybe like short term. And the other thing is, the reality is, like, in ancient times, if you think about it, women would want to probably be with a guy who has a higher body fat percentage, because it would indicate that he has access to resources. Like, think about when you have abs. When you have abs and you're really lean, I'm not saying this is the same for people who are fit, but I'm saying for the people who are like really lean and have like really chiseled abs, that kind of indicates you're starving. Like, it indicates that you're starving. And I know, like, we're not actually starving in the modern world. It's a choice. But like within like the lizard brain or in the hind brain of women, they're kind of thinking in the back of their mind, like, we've been trained over thousands and thousands of years that like that could be dangerous to have kids with. And so on one hand, I think it could be true that they want dad bods if they're looking for someone to settle down and have kids with, because he's got a higher body fat percentage, which kind of indicates that he might have more or a higher socioeconomic status in terms of the fact that, he's got access to food. And so that's not really a concern. And I know that in the modern times, this makes no sense because, it's almost the opposite now, where it's like you kind of have a higher status if you're lean and in shape because everybody's freaking fat and overweight. But if you think about it from thousands of years ago, it kind of would have been the opposite, where you would never try to get lean on purpose because it was hard enough to get food. So you would never try to get a six pack. Like people that weren't like going around trying to get six packs back then, because that would kind of be dangerous because you might not ever run into food again. So the people who had a higher body fat percentage were actually probably the people who were more wealthy, had higher socioeconomic status. And so that could be very much a part of it, is that part of our brains is still fixed in the past, thinking that, people who are guys that have like a higher body fat percentage are more safer to have kids with. And so that's just like a long explanation, but I think that's another factor. Now, the other thing about this is, if we look at another thing that kind of proves the point of guys who are being more lean and fit, right, having that fit body being more attractive, is go around and just look at magazine covers. Go look at magazine covers. Go look at women's like, what do they call those, like fantasy novels or whatever, with like, like the romance novels. It's always a guy who's in shape and fit, who's got like the six pack, he's got muscles. It's never the guy who's a freaking dad bod, bro. Like if you go look at these books and you look at the covers, it's never going to be a guy who's a dad bod. Like, come on, bro. It's never going to be a guy who's a dad bod on the covers of those things. So it's like, I think when it comes down to like actually being sexually attracted to, the guy who's fit bod is always going to win. Like, you're always going to win. You're never going to miss out by being, leaner, more in shape. I don't think that that's the case. And from my own experience, that I just think that this is totally true. And I think that, if you're going to get in your like a long-term relationship, yeah, they don't really care as much because it's more of a long-term thing. You're having kids or whatever. And like I said, they're kind of worried more about that competition anxiety. But at the same time, I just think that it's stupid that all these people are going around saying dad bod, dad bod, dad bod, and then like people have an excuse now not to work out. Because think about it this way too, man. If you just completely throw out what women are even attracted to, okay? Let's just forget about women for a minute and just not even think about that. It would be a shame for you to basically just stick with a dad bod because you think that, this is going to be more attractive to women, because the reality is, number one, it's probably not. If you actually go and you were actually doing a proper survey and a poll amongst all women, I'm sure 9 times out of 10, it's always going to be the guy who's fit is going to be more attractive, because being fit and being in shape, and I'm not talking about, when I say fit, I'm not talking about these bodybuilders who are freaking, literally monsters and like jacked, super shredded, you can see every vein popping out of their body. I'm just talking about guys who are like lean, kind of have abs. Like I almost have abs, right? Almost have abs, but I almost kind of have abs, but right now I'm bulking, so they're kind of like getting covered up. But I'm just talking about being fit and being in shape. I'm not talking about these jacked, giant freaking bodybuilders. Though that's an extreme, and yeah, most women are not attracted to that. But really, at the end of the day, I just think that this whole thing of people being dad bods and all this kind of stuff, it's sending a bad message, because it's saying basically that you can continue to be unhealthy as a man and still be attractive. And I think that, yeah, there are women out there who don't mind that, and that can be their preference. That's fine. But you should never just try to impress women with your physique and with your health, as opposed to, focusing on your own self-esteem and your own confidence. Because I know for a fact, before, when I was out of shape, and I guess I kind of had like a sort of dad bod look, maybe a little bit, but I was kind of like skinny fat. I didn't have really a ton of muscle, and I had extra body fat before I started lifting. And dude, it affected my life in such a negative way. And so if you want to actually get fit, if you want to get healthy, I think that's way more of a priority, and you should do that. And you should do that and attract the women who are attracted to that, because they're going to have a similar lifestyle as you. You know what I mean? You don't want to have a dad bod just because some women are going to find it attractive, because you're giving up on all the gains and all the benefits of being in shape. That's like so stupid. Like, I don't understand this because I've seen a lot of guys in comments be like, oh, great, now I don't have to go to the gym. Oh, nice, yeah, I'll just keep my... And it's like, no, dude, no, you should not do that because going to the gym has way more benefits than just, women. It has so many more benefits. The confidence you get, the self-esteem you get, the ability to be confident in all endeavors in life, in terms of your relationships, in terms of, going after business and what you want to achieve in terms of entrepreneurship or something like that. It gives you so much more confidence and you just feel so much more mental clarity being in shape and having a lower body fat percentage than being out of shape, never working out, being a slob and just walking around and thinking that that's okay. And so I think if you want to reach your highest potential as a man, don't take this advice of, oh, well, women don't like guys who are fit, so I'm gonna stay overweight and I'm gonna stay like, dude, fuck that, dude. I don't give a damn, how many of these surveys or whatever comes out. The reality is, you should be getting fit. If not for women, I don't give a damn if no women even liked guys who were fit, which isn't the case. If, let's just say, for some weird reason, all women just started liking guys who had dad bods, okay? In my opinion, it doesn't even matter because you want to be healthy, you want to live long, you want to have confidence. And so every single day when you wake up, you want to look in the mirror and be like, dude, I like my physique. Like years ago, before I started lifting, I would wake up and look in the mirror and be like, I don't really like what I see. And every single day that would affect my confidence. So when I go out into the world, it affects my confidence. When I, and I'm trying to work on business, that affects my confidence. My relationships, it affects that. But now when I wake up and look in the mirror, I mean, obviously I got a long way to go. I'm still lifting and I'm still growing and all this kind of stuff, but I've made a lot of progress from where I was. And now when I get up and look in the mirror, I'm actually proud of what I see. And immediately every single day when I wake up and see that in the mirror, it reflects back to me a self-image that I'm proud of. And it reflects back to me confidence and self-esteem. And so that's why I really wanted to bring this up today, was because, number one, kind of explaining a little bit about why I think women might be saying this, but also, two, to remind you and make you remember, like, even if that's what women liked, if all of them like that, it's still important for you to get in shape just for the health reasons, the mental clarity, the confidence that you're going to feel. That's way more important than just being attractive. And I can tell you from experience that from my own experience, I've received way more attraction and way more of an increase in terms of even the relationship I'm in being 10 times better than when I quote unquote had a dad bod or was out of shape. So again, I don't know what all these women are talking about. Again, I think maybe it could just come down to them talking about this because they're looking for a more long-term partner, or again, maybe they just have the competition anxiety from the guys who are like in shape because they know they're more attractive and more women are going to be attracted. At the end of the day, bro, I think that you should just get in shape. I think it'll be the best thing that you ever did in your entire life, and stop worrying about, dad bods being attractive. Like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. There's millions and millions and millions, if not billions, of women who are more attracted to guys who are fit. And, you're going to live a way better life living that kind of a lifestyle. So that's it for this video, man. I want you to leave down in the comments what you think about this. Do you think that, I was right on this? Do you think that I nailed some of these points, or do you completely disagree? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace, man.